على مر الزمان نور على مر الزمان تألقا وأضاء للدنيا طريقا مشرقا وهدى من الرحمن يهدينا به للصالحات وللمكارم والتقى نور على مر الزمان تألقا وأضاء للدنيا طريقا مشرقا وهدى من الرحمن يهدينا به للصالحات وللمكارم والتقى هذا كتاب الله أعذب منهل أنعم به من مورد لمن استقى قد صانه رب العباد بحفظه وحماه حتى لا يضيع ويخلقا.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ikhwat al-Iman, dear viewers of TV Islama. Welcome to session number 6 of our Tajweed series, the Tarteel series. Alhamdulillah, in the previous session we briefly introduced the Arabic letters, Huruf al-Arabiya, and we talked a little bit about the history of the Arabic letters. We talked about the original ordering of the Arabic letters, and we mentioned that originally it used to be the Abjadi order, and this is the ordering of the Semitic languages. We mentioned that this ordering was Alif, Ba, Jim, Dal, Ha, Waw, Zay, Ha, Ta, Ya, to the end. And then we talked about the modern day ordering and when it occurred and who ordered the alphabet in this manner. And alhamdulillah, we also mentioned that this new ordering, this Hijai ordering as it's called, is ordered based on the similarity or the similarity of the shape of the letters. After that, we introduced a little bit Makharij al-Huruf. We talked a little bit about Makharij al-Huruf and talked about the major areas of articulation such as the mouth, the throat, as well as the nasal cavity and the empty spaces in the mouth and the throat. So we briefly touched on these things. Insha'Allah ta'ala, today what we will be doing is that we will talk a little bit more in detail about Makharij al-Huruf. We will actually go through all of the Makharij and mention them so that you have an idea of where these makharij are, where these articulation points are. So today's, insha'Allah ta'ala, if we get through it, either today or if we don't go through it today and in the next session, we will mention all of the makharij, go through them, mention them, what letter comes from them, just sort of, a high level overview of all the makharij. And then after that, insha'Allah ta'ala, in the following sessions, the sessions to follow after this one or these two, we will go into detail, take each makhraj, talk about the letter that comes from it, perhaps show images and explain and talk about and discuss how that letter is produced from that makhraj, insha'Allah ta'ala. Now, before we get into today's session, I have a correction from the previous session, inshallah ta'ala. If you can look at the slide, if you look at the slide, you will find that in the previous session, we had a typo when we were talking about the order of the Arabic alphabet. Inshallah ta'ala, if you look at the screen, this is what we had on the screen in the previous session. We had a typo where we didn't include this word hawaz in the previous session. So inshallah ta'ala, I just wanted to make that correction, that abjad hawaz hutti kalamun sa'fas qarashat thakhadun tadhaghun is the abjadi order, and huruf al-abjadiyya as they're called, and we did not mention, or we didn't include hawaz in the previous session. I just wanted to, inshallah ta'ala, make that correction bi-idhnillah. So having said that, let's move on. So the scholars, rahimahumullah ta'ala, say that all the makharij can be categorized under 5 general areas of articulation, right? All the articulation points of the Arabic letters can be are under one of 5. So we'll mention what those 5 are here and then talk about them. So the first area of articulation is called al-jawf. Al-jawf, and what this means is this is the cavities of the throat and mouth. Basically, the empty space in your mouth as well as your throat. And we will see an image after this slide that will hopefully, inshallah ta'ala, make it clear. So al-jawf is one general area of articulation. So there are 5 general areas. So 5 areas that encompass, that include within them multiple makharij. So al-jawf is one of 5. The next general area of articulation is called al-halq. Al-halq, this is the throat, right? The throat has a number of makharij. And inshallah ta'ala, in the upcoming slides, we will see what those makharij are. So the second area of articulation after al-jawf is al-halq, which is the throat. And then number 3 is al-lisan. Al-lisan is it's the Arabic word for the tongue, right? The tongue has the most number of articulation points for the Arabic letters. And there are actually about 10 articulation points for the tongue. So the tongue is the third general area of articulation. And then the next area of articulation is the shafatan, which are the lips, right? The 2 lips are called shafatan, and the lips have a number of letters that are articulated from them, and it also includes about two articulation points, and we will mention later what those are. And then the last general area of articulation is al-khayshum, which is the nasal cavity, right? The empty space inside your nose is called al-khayshum, which is the nasal cavity. So the empty space in your nose. So here, I have an image on here that will show us all areas of articulation, and the 5 general areas are in here as well. So the first one is the throat, as we mentioned, right? As you can see on the image here, this arrow is pointing to the throat. So inshallah ta'ala, later on we will talk about what letter comes from where, and then point in the throat exactly where that letter comes from. But all of this area here, this is the throat here, and there are a couple makharij, a couple articulation points that are in the throat. And then al-jawf is the empty areas of the mouth and the throat. So you see these empty areas was colored in green as well as this dark blue. So this is al-jawf, right? All this empty area in the mouth. So this cavity here, so here and down here. So this is al-jawf. And then the tongue, as you can see here, this is the tongue. And this has the most number of articulation points for the Arabic letters. And then another area of articulation is the palate, the roof of the mouth. So this place is used with the tongue usually, right? So a portion of the tongue will go up to the palate, and some letter will be produced from that interaction, and we'll talk about that later, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. And then the lips, right? These are the lips. I think this is fairly straightforward. And then the nasal cavity is up here. The nasal cavity is up here, right? So these, the red guys here, these red ones are the 5 general areas of articulation. The palate, is just in support of the tongue. And then I mistakenly colored it red, but the teeth is also in support of the tongue as well as the lips. So these are the areas of articulation that we will be talking about as we go forward, right? So a letter will either come from, from the throat, or from the empty areas of the mouth, or from the interaction between, the tongue and the palate, or the interaction between, the teeth and the tongue, or the lips together, or the lips with the tongue, or it will be produced, or the sound will be produced from the nasal cavity. Hopefully, inshallah ta'ala, that is clear. So now what we will do is actually go through all of the makharij in one by one, not in detail, just mention them so that you have an idea of what the makharij are, what letters are from which makhraj, which articulation point. And then inshallah ta'ala in the upcoming sessions, we will actually go into detail, show images sort of like we're showing it here right now, and then talk about how that sound is produced, how that letter is pronounced from that makhraj, from that articulation point. But today we will just be briefly, or I guess sort of do a high-level overview of all of the makharij, insha'Allah ta'ala. Now, as to the number of the articulation points, the scholars actually differ. The number we will be using is going to be 17, which is the number Ibn al-Jazari rahimahullah ta'ala uses. He says, مخارج الحروف 17 على الذي يختاره من اختبر. That the number of articulation points are 17. Some scholars say it's 16 or 15, 14, so on and so forth. And the reason for this differing is that a lot of these makhraj, they are so close to each other. Their articulation point is so close to each other. Some scholars, count them as one, and instead of two, you count them. If you count it as one, that reduces the number of articulation points. Like let's say, if you count it 2 makhraj as one, then it's now 16 instead of 17. So that's why the scholars differ with the number of articulation points. But for our purposes, insha'Allah ta'ala, we will be following what Ibn al-Jazari rahimahullah ta'ala, the number that he uses, which is 17. So there are 17 areas or 17 articulation points, and insha'Allah ta'ala, we will be mentioning them right now. So the 17 articulation points, the first one we will be talking about is al-jawf, right? Al-jawf, as we mentioned, that this is the empty space in the mouth, and this has one articulation point. One articulation point for the 3 lengthened letters. So the 3 letters that are used as vowels, which are the alif with the fatha before it. So this alif here, its articulation point is from al-jawf. So it's from the empty space in your mouth and throat. And this articulation point, al-jawf, they say it's not a specific articulation point, right? Like the empty space in your mouth and throat, that's a very general area. So it's just air running through that, and inshallah ta'ala we'll see later on in the upcoming sessions how that happens. But the alif is from al-jawf. So when I say ba, that sound that's produced, it doesn't come from a specific place, but rather it's the air as well as sound running through the empty space in your throat as well as the mouth. And then the waw sakin, so the 3 lengthened letters, the alif, the waw, and the ya. So the waw sakin, when it has a dhamma before it, its articulation point is al-jawf. So when I say boo, that elongation there is from al-jawf. And the ya sakin with a kasra before it, its articulation point is al-jawf. So when I say bi, that elongation is from al-jawf. So that is 1, right? 1 of 17. And inshallah ta'ala, I don't think we'll get through all of them today. Perhaps we'll do half of them today. And then in the next session, go over the next half, bi'idhnillah. So the next set of articulation points are from al-khalq. Remember, we mentioned that there are 5 general areas, right? We said there is al-jawf, which is the empty space in the mouth as well as the throat. And then al-khalq, which is the throat, right? The throat itself has a couple articulation points. So the throat has 3 articulation points for 6 letters. So 3 articulation points for 6 letters. So the second articulation point out of the 17 total is the deepest part of the throat, which is aqsa al-khalq. Aqsa al-khalq. So the deepest part of the throat relative to the mouth, right? So relative to, let's say, your lips, the deepest part of your throat. So the furthest point of the throat away from your mouth is aqsa al-khalq. And from here we have the letters hamza and ha, right? That comes from the deepest part of the throat. And when I say that's also from the deepest part of the throat. And then the third, which is the second articulation point of the throat, is the middle part of the throat. Wasatul khalq. Wasatul khalq also has 2 letters. So we said there are 3 articulation points for the throat, and each of them have 2 letters for a total of 6. So the ha and the ayn are from the middle part of the throat. So this is closer to the mouth than the deepest part. And we will see in the future with images what this looks like. So the ayn and the ha, so these are from the middle part of the throat. And then the fourth makhraj is the closest part of the throat from the mouth, which is right next to where the root of the tongue is. So this is adn al-khalq. Adn al-khalq also has 2 letters. The 2 letters are kha and ghayn. When I say akh, you notice it's sort of like at the top of your throat. Agh, same thing. So these 2 letters are from the closest part of the throat, again, relative to the mouth or to the lips. So now we're done with 2 general areas, right? We did al-jawf and we did al-khalq. We said al-jawf has 1 articulation point. Al-khalq, which is the throat, has 3 articulation points, and we mentioned all those 3. So far we have 4 articulation points. So the next general area, which has the most number of articulation points, is al-lisan. Al-lisan. And inshallah ta'ala, ikhwat al-iman, before I go on, I forgot to mention this at the beginning, but if you wish to recite today's surah, which is Surah Al-Falaq, we covered Surah Al-Falaq in the previous session. So inshallah ta'ala, if you want to call in, you can use, you can see the number on your screen there. Use either emo or your regular phone and call in, inshallah ta'ala. You can recite Surah Al-Falaq and we can correct any mistakes that may occur. So al-lisan is the next area of articulation from the 5 general areas, and it has 10 articulation points for 18 letters. So the tongue has 18 letters coming from it, and subhanallah, you know, it's the area of articulation that has the most letters. So the 5th articulation point of the 17 we're talking about in total here comes from the deepest part of the tongue, which we call aqsa al-lisan. Aqsa al-lisan has 2 letters, and those letters are kaf and qaf. When I say ak, it's towards the back of your tongue, all the way at the back. Aqqa, aqqa. When you say aq, that's also from the deepest part of the tongue. And then the sixth articulation point of the 17 is from the middle of the tongue. So again, when we say deepest and middle, we're talking about relative to the lips, right? So the deepest part is the furthest point of the tongue from your lips or from the teeth, from the front teeth. And then the middle of the tongue is closer to the lips. So wasatul lisan has 3 letters. Jim, when I say aj, this is from the middle of the tongue. Ash, sheen, ash, also is from the middle of the tongue, middle part of the tongue. And then ya is also from the middle part of the tongue. So there's a difference between this ya and the lengthened ya. So the ya that acts as a long vowel, the one that when it has a sukoon and there's a kasra before it, that one's from al-jawf. But ya mutaharrik, so ya that has a fatha, dhamma or kasra, this is from the middle of the tongue. And then the 7th articulation point is from the 2 sides of the tongue. So hafatay lisan. So the 2 sides of the tongue, we'll count this actually as 2 articulation points, because depending on which part of the tongue that you use, these 2 letters utilize different areas of the 2 sides of the tongue. So the 2 letters are la and lam. The la it comes from the side of the tongue, the 2 sides of the tongue that are the back 2/3. The back 2/3 of the tongue is where the la comes from, but the frontmost 1/3 of the tongue is where the lam comes from. So count that as 2. So this is 7 and 8. So the 2 sides of the tongue, suppose this is my tongue, if my hand is my tongue, and if this was the back of the tongue, so the 2/3 that are at the back, the la is from there, and then the 1/3 that's at the front is where the lam comes from. So that is 8 articulation points that we have so far. Continuing on with the articulation points that are in the al-lisan, the tongue. Number 9 is the tip of the tongue and the gum. So the tip of the tongue and the gum, when they come together, so taraful lisan is the tip of the tongue. We have noon and ra, an and ar. When you say ar, so this is the tip of the tongue, as well as the gum at the top of the upper gum. And then number 10 is the top of the tip of the tongue, right? So you have the tip of the tongue and then the top of it, and the gum line is where the letters ta, dal, and ta are articulated from. So when I say at, ad, or at, so these 3 letters are from the top of the tip. So you have the tip and then the top of the tip with the gum line, so that coming together, and we will see with images later on in future sessions, inshallah ta'ala. This is where these letters are articulated from. And then makhraj number 11 is the tip of the tongue and the bottom front incisors, right? So these incisors at the the front incisor of the bottom teeth. So when the tip of the tongue and the bottom incisors come together, you get these 3 letters. You have sin, as, sa, as, and zay, or zai, az. So these letters are articulated from the tip of the tongue and the bottom incisors. Again, inshallah ta'ala, as a reminder, we're just going through, sort of just to give you an idea of what the makharij are. And then inshallah ta'ala in future sessions we will talk about this in more detail, right? Showing images and then talking more about how that sound is produced. So this is just a brief, we're just briefly touching and then going forward. Number 12 of the 17 articulation points is the tip of the tongue and the top incisors. So the front two top incisors and the tip of the tongue, when they come together, you have tha, dha, and dha, right? You have the tip of the tongue touching the top incisors, the tip of the top incisors. And then, so you get these letters, ath, adh, and adh. So these three letters are from there. And then number 13 is the top of the tip of the tongue and the gum line. Actually, I think we repeated ourselves here. Let me go back here, 1 second. So we repeated the number of articulation points of al-lisan. We'll move forward. So after zay, sad, and sin, we have the tip of the tongue and the top incisors. So we have tha, dha, and dha. So these are from the tip of the tongue as well as the type two front incisors. And then articulation number, not 13 here, but rather this should be 13. So we are done with al-lisan. So there's a typo in the previous slide. So the tongue, we finish at number 12 total. Next is ash-shafatan. Ash-shafatan are the two lips, right? The two lips. And then, so the lips have two articulation points for four letters. They have two articulation points for 4 letters. So we have the lower lips and the top incisors. So when the lower lips and the bottom of the lower lips and the top incisors, they come together, you produce the letter fa, f. When I say f, so this is produced from the lower lip as well as the top incisors coming together. And then number 16 is just the two lips coming together, produces these 3 letters. Waw, right? Mim, and ba. So these 3 letters, they all come from the two lips coming together in different ways, right? And inshallah ta'ala, we will talk about in future sessions exactly how this happens. MashaAllah, it looks like we have a caller. تفضل بارك الله فيكم.
Okay, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Okay, so that ha, say Bismillahi, Bismillahi, ha, not ha.
Okay. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب.
So the ra, make sure to make it very light. Like Al-Lisi, وَمِن شَرِّ غَاسِقٍ إِذَا وَقَبَ.
وَمِن شَرِّ غَاسِقٍ إِذَا وَقَبَ. وَمِن شَرِّ النَّفَّاثَاتِ فِي الْعُقَدِ.
وَمِن شَرِّ Fa, don't make it heavy, make it light for this in. Naffathati.
ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد.
So for that ha as well, hasidin, don't make it ha. قلسي ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد.
ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد.
ما شاء الله بارك الله فيكم أحسنتم.
جزاك الله خير.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. All right, إخوة الإيمان, I was going back just to make sure we counted properly. So we said 11 there, 12. Okay, so we were talking about the tulips. Number 16 was when the tulips come together. We have waw, mim, and ba. And inshallah ta'ala in future sessions we will talk about how the mechanics of how these letters are produced, even though they're coming exactly from the exact same place. And inshallah ta'ala the last makhraj is al-khayshum, which is the nasal cavity, and this has one articulation point, and that is the gunna is articulated from the nasal cavity. So those are the 17 articulation points. Perhaps we might have, if we made a mistake, inshallah ta'ala we will correct them in the next session. We'll double check these slides. It looks like we might have reproduced one or two things, but ikhwat al-iman, so that brings us to a close to today's session. So inshallah ta'ala next what we will do is we will cover the next surah, and then we will inshallah ta'ala close today's session. So in the previous session we covered Surah Al-Falaq. So today we will recite Surah Al-Ikhlas, and then inshallah ta'ala close out for today. So as usual, I'll recite it first and then go through and point out anything that you may need to pay attention to inshallah ta'ala. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. So the first thing to keep in mind or to pay attention to, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, we've covered it a couple times, numerous times, so I won't go into that. But for the first ayah, make sure you show the lam, just as we mentioned in Surah Al-Falaq, as well as Surah Al-Nas. Make sure to show that lam, show the sukoon, make it idhar, show it, make it clear as possible. Qul, right? Qul. And then the next part is lafzul jalala here, the word Allah. Whenever it comes after a fatha, the lam in lafz jalala, the lam in the word Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the word Allah, is heavy. So we say qul huwa Allahu, Allahu. That sound should fill your mouth, right? It's a heavy sound. It should not be qul huwa Allahu or something like that where it's very light. So do not say qul huwa Allahu, qul huwa Allahu or qul huwa Allahu, but rather you should be filling your mouth, making that sound heavy. Qul huwa Allahu, Allahu. Qul huwa Allahu ahad, ahad. So the dal, just like it was in Surah Al-Falaq. It looks like we have a call. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
MashaAllah. What is your name?
Ilham.
Ilham. Ilham, how are you?
Good, alhamdulillah. How are you?
I am doing well. Barakallahu fiki. Are you ready to recite?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Recite Surah Al-Falaq.
قل أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
So for the ra, when you say Bismillah, make sure to make the ra, make it heavy, okay? Like make it fat. Bismillahir ra. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim.
Okay. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim.
MashaAllah, that's better.
قل أعوذ برب الفلق
And when you stop on qafs, we make what's called qalqala, like it's an echo. You hear it, like the way I'm saying it right now. Birabbil falaq, falaq. You hear that sound? Falaq at the end. Try to make that sound.
Okay. قل أعوذ برب الفلق
MashaAllah.
من شر ما من شر.
Yep, you're right.
من شر غاسق من شر
ما خلق.
ما خلق.
One more time. Say one more time.
ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد.
Okay, mashallah. Barakallahu fiki, Ilham. Just make sure, this surah, all the ending of the ayahs, we do that echo sound that we did in the first ayah. Okay? So,
okay.
Min sharri ma khalaq. Can you say that again?
Min sharri
ma khalaq.
Ma khalaqa.
Okay, and then in the next ayah, for the ba, we do the same thing. وَمِن شَرِّ غَاسِقٍ إِذَا وَقَبَ. Say that.
وَمِن شَرِّ غَاسِقٍ إِذَا وَقَبَ.
Good. And then in the same thing in the next ayah. وَمِن شَرِّ النَّفَّاثَاتِ فِي الْعُقَدِ.
وَمِن شَرِّ النَّفَّاثَاتِ فِي الْعُقَدِ.
Stay on that nun shadda. وَمِن شَرِّ النَّفَّاثَاتِ.
وَمِن شَرِّ النَّفَّاثَاتِ فِي الْعُقَدِ.
Good. And then the last one, same thing. وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدَ.
وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدَ.
MashaAllah. Barakallahu fiki, Ilham. Okay, be strong. Make sure to memorize a lot. Review Quran a lot. Listen to different sheikhs. You read very well, mashallah. Barakallahu fiki. Good job.
Jazakallah.
Wa iyaki. Yes, assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Okay, Ikhwat al-Iman, going back to Surah Al-Ikhlas, mashallah. So for Ahad, that dal, just as I was telling Sheikh Ilham, make sure to do qalqala, right? Do qalqala. There should be sort of like an echo at the end. Ahad, right? Don't say Ahad and stop. Just like we did in Surah Al-Falaq. So fil uqad. So Ahad. Qul huwa Allahu ahad. Allahu. Same thing here. Allahu. Qul huwa Allahu. So we make this heavy as well, right? Both are heavy because there is a fatha before it. Here there's no fatha written, but when you recite, when you pronounce or when you say the word, there's a fatha there. Allahu sa, not sin. Don't say Allahu sa. That is incorrect. Allahu samad, Allahu samad. Lam yalid, the dal here, just like at the ending, we do that the qalqala that we called, what we called qalqala, which is that sort of echo sound at the end there. Lam yalid wa lam yulad, right? Lam yalid wa lam yulad. وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ. Here, people tend to make a mistake here where they actually pronounce this noon. This noon is not, you don't pronounce it, right? It's going to be merged into the lam. That's why this lam has a shadda on it. So pretend as if there's no noon there and that there's just a lam with a shadda. So it's like kullahu, kullahu. Like don't say the noon. Pretend there's no noon there at all. So وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ يَكُنْ لَهُ وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. Kufuwan, show the noon sound, just like we did in Surah Al-Falaq when we said hasidin and ghasiqin. We show this noon sound in this tanween here as well. So وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. Inshallah ta'ala, I'll recite this one more time and then we will be done. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. Ikhwat al-Iman, that brings us to a close for today's session. MashaAllah, it looks like we have one more call. We'll take this call and then we will be done. Assalamu alaikum.
Salam.
MashaAllah, what is your name?
Suhaila.
Suhaila, how are you?
Good.
Good, MashaAllah. How's Quran?
Good.
Good. Are you ready to recite?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Recite Surah 2 Al-Falaq.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Make sure to show the ha. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. قل أعوذ برب الفلق.
Falaq. Just like I told Ilham, make sure to do falaq. Falaq. You hear that sound at the end there? برب الفلق.
برب الفلق. من شر ما خلق. ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب. ومن شر نفاثات.
We have to stay on this one. Stay on that one. ومن شر النفاثات.
ومن شر النفاثات في العقد.
Again, one more time. Say it like I'm saying it. ومن شر النفاثات في العقد.
ومن شر النفاثات في العقد.
So Hayla, the second one, like this one. شر النفاثات.
شر النفاثات في العقد.
Okay, say it one more time. ومن شر النفاثات في العقد.
ومن شر النفاثات في العقد.
So Hayla, you're skipping it, huh? The noon that has a shadda, we have to stay on it, okay? One more time. ومن شر النفاثات.
ومن شر النفاثات في العقد.
Okay, that's better.
ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد.
ما شاء الله. بارك الله فيك سهيلة. Well done. Just remember the noon shadda. ومن شر النفاثات. We stay on noon shaddas. When noon has a shadda, we stay on it, okay?
Okay.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Very good. You recite very well. أحسن الله إليك. Good job. Okay, إخوة الإيمان, that will be all for today. بارك الله لي ولكم في القرآن العظيم ونفعني وإياكم بما فيه من الآيات والذكر الحكيم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
نور على مر الزمان تألقا وأضاء للدنيا طريقا مشرقا وهدى من الرحمن يهدينا به للصالحات وللمكارم والتقى نور على مر الزمان تألقا وأضاء للدنيا طريقا مشرقا وهدى من الرحمن يهدينا به للصالحات وللمكارم والتقى هذا كتاب الله أعذب منهل أنعم به من مورد لمن استقى قد صانه رب العباد بحفظه